Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Linda. Here on this channel I share videos about sewing, pattern drafting and everything in between. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to draft and sew this underbust corset with loops at the back. If this seems like what you're interested in, hit the subscribe button and let's start. So guys, here is a basic bodice pattern which I have drafted halfway. I'll just go ahead and explain that before we continue. So now you see I have marked my shoulder line, and now I went down at this point by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and then I measured half of my armhole measurement for the armhole, and then for this part I went to the tip of the neckline and I measured my bust point and then also my underbust, and also for the length of it I measured 17 for the waistline. So as you can see above, the pattern is my roughly drawn neckline, which I'm not going to be using. Kindly ignore these dotted lines you see, as we are not going to be making a cup with that. That was meant to be a bra cup. So for my dart intake, I went downwards at this point by 1 inch and I drafted my dart from there, ruled a straight line, and then I took half of an inch on both sides of the straight line to form my dart leg. Taking my measurement once again from the top, you can see that I have an issue with the underbust. It's supposed to be 13 inches, so I went ahead to draw 13.5 due to the nature of the previous pattern I wanted to draw. So I'm just going to eliminate this line and then I'll go upwards by half of an inch for my underbust. That's going to be my new underbust line. And now we're going to be doing away with this line. So now I'll just go ahead and check what I have. My bust point is intact, my underbust is intact, and then my waistline is intact. So the next thing I'll be doing just to draw an armhole curve, which we are not going to be using just for the purpose of it. And then the next thing I'll be doing right now is just to go ahead and check the distance between my bust point and my underbust. So I have about 3 inches at that point. I'm just going to be using that to draw out the shape for the underbust corset. So now I'll just go ahead and place that 3 inches from this point, and I'll mark at this point. After I was done with that, I went ahead to mark 3 inches once more at the opposite side, and then I'm just going to be using my curved roller to draw a line to curve it out. So now after I was done curving it out, I went ahead to just draw out these points to meet with the darts. So next thing I'll be doing is just to go ahead and take my quarter of my bust circumference, which is 9.5. Then I'll be adding 2 inches. You can go ahead and add 1.5 inches or 2 inches. Okay, so I'm adding ease allowance, that's why I made it 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and measure the same thing on the waistline. Quarter of my waistline measurement divided by 4. Then I added the dart which I took out at this point, and then I went ahead to add my extra 2 inches stitching allowance. And then I just went ahead to connect the lines like so. The next thing I did was to cut it out. Kindly pay attention to see how I am cutting this out to avoid mistakes. And now we have our pattern for the front piece. Okay, so I'm just going to label this center front, and this is going to be the side front. And now we're going to be using this pattern to draft the back. So for the back, I placed a new pattern paper underneath the first one, and then I measured 2 inches from this part for my zipper intake. That's if you're using a zipper. So I went ahead to draw out the straight line, and then from there we'll be taking a measurement. So I'll be marking this as a zipper in case you want to use zipper for your underbust corset. Okay, and now I'm going to be placing this from the line of the zipper, and then I pinned it down and also went ahead to mark this dot to trace it out. This is going to be a guide for me to trace out the front pattern. Okay, so if you can see, you notice I gave 1 inch space in between the two front pieces. Okay, that is to also get a dart for the back piece. So I went ahead to trace the sides and then a part of the top like this, which is going to serve as a guide for the back line. And also I went ahead to trace those parts as well. After I was done with the tracing, I carefully went ahead to remove my pins, and then I removed the buttons as well. So this is what I am left with for the back. So what I will do right now is just to go ahead and slant these lines to the center back. So I'll just go ahead and tilt my ruler a little bit bent like this, and then I will draw a slanted line upwards to meet at the initial line, and then I will make the zipper part straight in case you are using the zipper. I'm still stressing about the zipper, okay? It's not a must, you must have loops. So now I'll go ahead and draw the straight line for the dart up to the top of the back piece like this, and then I will draw the sides for the dart intake. This is going to be 1 inch, okay? Remember I gave a notation for the marks, and then I went ahead to cut it out. So this is what I have left for the back piece after I was done cutting it out and removing the dart. This is going to be the center back, and then this is going to be the side back. So what I'll do right now is just go ahead and take away this part of the zip in case you don't want the zipper. I'm not going to be making use of the zipper. I'm only going to be making use of the side back. So now I'll be taking this part away. This particular space where I wrote center back is going to be transformed to loops. So I'll just set it aside, and now the next thing I'll be doing right now is just to go ahead and assemble my front piece and my back piece together, place it on my fabric, mark 0.5 inch all around, and then cut it out. I'll also be cutting out the same pattern on my lining, okay? And here I have my hairstay and then the choice of fabric which I provided for this tutorial. I also got my boning and my bias strip. When I started making this tutorial, I discovered I don't have any bias left, so I just had to work with what I have. I hope it turns out beautiful. And then these are my patterns carefully arranged on my fabric. I'm just going to be adding 0.5 inch all around except for the sides, and then cut it out. After I was done cutting out the whole patterns on my fabric, I also cut out my lining piece. And the next thing I did was to attach my hairstay on all the patterns, including the lining piece as well. So guys, the next thing I'll be doing is just to go ahead and set the back piece aside, and then I'll be joining the front piece on the sewing machine right away. I'll do that by placing the center piece underneath the sides, and then I'll stitch it, and also go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side as well. And then I'll head over to the sewing machine to do the necessary. So guys, I am done stitching both the center piece and the sides together. Next thing I'll be doing is just to go ahead and open up the seams like so at the wrong side, and then press it very well. So this is what I have after I was done. The next thing I'll be doing is just to attach the back piece to the sides, okay? For that, I'll be measuring the intake I have for my joining allowance, my general stitching allowance. Then I have 2 inches as at when I was drafting it. I'll just go ahead and mark the same measurement, but I'll be adding an ease to it. So whatever I did for the main fabric, I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the lining piece as well. After I was done stitching everything together, the next thing I will do is just to go ahead and open it up like this, and then trim out the excess fabrics at the sides of the stitching allowance. This is to enable us to attach our boning casing and boning as well to the sides. Speaking about the boning casing, I'll be inserting my bias strip on the areas I am pointing at the center and the sides where they are joining, okay? So this is my bias strip. I'll be placing one here. So make sure you find your midpoint for that. And then I'll be placing one around this part where there is joining. In fact, any place you feel that there is joining, just go ahead and place your bias strip and pin it down around there. I also placed one around the sides for the back piece. And then I'll just go ahead and stitch it all together. For the back, I'll be measuring 1 inch away from the end like this, and then I will just go ahead and rule a straight line from there. That is where I'll be placing another strip of bias, and then I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So guys, after I was done with that, I aligned the two pieces together, right side to right side facing each other, and I ran a stitch following the line where I am pointing. So after I was done stitching that together, I went ahead to notch it out and then trim out the excess pointy edges. This is going to give me flexibility when I want to turn it inside out. So after I was done turning it inside out, it's time to insert my boning casing to the channel which I created with the bias strip. So I went ahead to burn the pointy edges to avoid injury when putting it on. So I'll just go ahead and insert my boning casing all the way onto the end like so, and then I will remove 1 inch from there by deducting it a little bit and then shifting it in outwards and cut it off. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing at the rest of the channels which I created for the boning. When making a corset, bonings are really important as it will give it strength and firmness around the body when you're putting it on. So now the next thing I'll be doing, just to insert another piece of boning around this part at the underbust, I'll just be measuring the size for that and then I'll cut it out. You can go ahead and use either your bra bone or bra wire, whichever name you may call it. Just be ready to search for the right size for your measurements. So to insert your bra bone, just gently go ahead and place it underneath your fabric like this. I mean in between your fabric and the lining piece. This is going to be a little bit difficult to do. Just go ahead and assemble it there and then make sure you hold it in place before stitching it down on your machine. You can go ahead and pin it down in place if there's any need for you to do that, and then head over to the machine and stitch it gradually. Please avoid stitching on the boning itself because it's going to break your needle. I also encountered the same thing. So guys, this is the finished work of the stitching under the bust. You can see how it's looking like, and then the next thing I'll be doing right now is just to go ahead and open it up like this, and then I'll sandwich this part together, making sure that the bonings are in between the two pieces. So the right side of the main fabric is facing the right side of the lining, and I'll just go ahead and stitch it along the line. So after I was done stitching it, this is what I have. I will gently go ahead and turn it inside out. This is really going to be a tough one, so just take your time and turn it out to avoid ripping your corset. So guys, I am done turning it inside out, and when you're done with yours, there is tendency that the bonings will rotate to the other side. Just go ahead and straighten it out, and then the next thing I'll be doing right now is just to go ahead and fold this part inwards and iron it out. Then I'll be creating loops and string for the back piece. For the loops, I use my bias strip as the loops and the string as well. So what I will do right now is just to go ahead and measure this part. As I have 7 inches there, I'll be taking the midpoints and then I'll further divide the remaining part into 2 equal halves by finding the midpoints, and then I'll mark it with my chalk line. These are the points where I'll be inserting my loopholes or loops. To create my loops, I'll gently go ahead and insert one end of the loop like this, and then I'll make sure to twist it in between the lines I created. So I'll be making a twist like this, or a turn as you may call it. So I'll just gently insert the second part, and then I'll be doing the same thing all the way through the rest of the loops, and then stitch it down. So guys, this is the final result, and for the loops I'm just going to tie it at the ends and then trim out the ends to beautify it. With that being said, that will take us to the end of this tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, kindly give me a thumbs up and also turn on the notification bell. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and support my channel. Thank you guys for watching up until the end. I'll see you guys in my next video.